Hello everyone, welcome to the Old Man and the Read. My name is Jerry. Today I'm going to talk about the books I've read titled What is Life? A couple of months ago I was in a used bookstore and I saw a book by Erwin Schrodinger titled What is Life? Now, this is a book I had read many years ago, back when I was in college, well over 50 years ago. And I thought it would be interesting to read it again. I've actually read 3 other books with the same title over the years, so I thought I would try to compare them. So, anyway, the title of the book, What is Life, I think really implies that it's going to give a definition, but I don't know that any of those actually give a definition of what life is. Mostly when they give a definition, it's more different aspects of life. And so it's one of those things that hasn't really been defined yet. But in my reading, my own opinion, I think any definition is going to have to include self-replication. To me, it appears that life is just the ability to continually self-replicate. And the definition, if used in life, would have to include the ability to continually self-replicate by obtaining new material, and that would basically mean metabolism. And in my thinking, I thought that, a lot of the people or scientists are saying that they believe life may have started in deep sea vents, and I can certainly understand how that would be, because the vents are continually supplying new material and chemicals into the water, and it's a warm, hot environment, so just very ripe for chemical reactions. And so there would be, trillions of chemical reactions going on just about every second there, and over millions of years, those reactions would make all kinds of combinations. Eventually could become self-replicating, and then through mutation of those molecules, they would slowly transition to something similar to life. And I don't really think there's probably a sharp defining point that will ever be made where non-living becomes living. I think it's going to be just a very slow transition. And I was thinking a good example of that is I'm 77 years old, and I think by anybody's definition I'm an old man. But there was a point in my life when I was a young man. So somewhere along the way I transitioned into an old man, and I don't think there's any certain point. You can't mark a birthday or anything that actually says I'm an old man now. I think it's just a very slow transition. And so with that, I'll show you the books I've read, and I'll begin with the Erwin Schrodinger book, What is Life? This was published in 1944. And in case anybody doesn't know, Erwin Schrodinger was an Austrian physicist. He was instrumental in the development of quantum mechanics, and very, very highly regarded. But the book is based on lectures he gave that are discussions of biology from the perspective of a physicist. And in the book, Schrodinger says that living organisms can be explained by their atoms and molecules, and that these atoms and molecules obey the very same laws of physics as non-living material. He talks about genetics and mutation in the book. He has a discussion on that, and he actually predicts something that similar to DNA. DNA is something that hadn't actually been discovered yet. I think it was about 7 years after his lectures that it was actually discovered. But he called it aperiodic crystals. But very interesting that he actually was able to define something like that. And he suggested that mutations may be related to quantum jump. And he points out that molecules can be composed of the same atoms, but can be in different arrangements. I don't know how much that pertains to actually mutations, but that was his discussion. And he says that life has something to do with entropy, and points out that non-living material slowly decays, whereas living material continues to maintain itself until it dies, and then it starts to decay. So life has something to do with entropy, and one of the things he thought made the difference is that he pointed out that living things are doing something, and to me that meant metabolism. The next book I have, titled What is Life, was published in 1995, and this was written by Lynn Margulis, just a marvelous biologist who I've read several books from, and her son Dorian Sagan. And I should mention, Margulis had been married to Carl Sagan, so that's how Dorian got his last name Sagan. But she, in the book, talks quite a bit about her studies in symbiosis. That's what she was known for. She was an early advocate of symbiotic relationships, and she says that everything is interwoven and evolves together through their interactions, and that evolution is the process of adapting to the changes that both occur in other living organisms and in the environment, and so that it's just a continually feedback system, each organism evolving to adapt to the changes in the other. And she also says that Earth is a superorganism, and by that she means that many of the features of the Earth have been driven by life itself. She talks about autopoiesis, and this is a term that means an entity that metabolizes continuously. And she points out that bacteria are the minimal autopoietic organisms known today, but there would have been much simpler ones earlier in time. And in her discussion of symbiosis, she gives our bodies as examples. Now, there are probably more foreign organisms in our body than we actually have cells, and each of them is reliant on the other for some benefits. And she points out that our cells themselves are symbiotic. We have what used to be a bacteria that has combined with our cells. That bacteria is mitochondria, and so our cells and the mitochondria are completely reliant on the other for their survival. But anyway, the book continues on, and she talks about the 5 living categories of organisms, and those are bacteria, proctoses, protozoa basically, animal, fungi, and plants. But it's just really a fascinating book by Margulis. The next book I have is by Andy Pross. This was published in 2012. And this is basically just an overload of information, but he asks in the book, how did inanimate matter become alive? And he's fairly certain it began with self-replicating chemistry and progressed through mutations that occurred. And he pointed out that science is actually able to trace this back to what appears to be the first replicator, but then unable to go beyond that point. And the last book, titled What is Life, that I have is by Paul Nurse. This was published in 2020, and this gives an overview of aspects of life. It explains that life is chemistry and that life is actually information. He talks a lot about the incomprehensible complexity of life at the cellular level, and each cell conducts millions of chemical reactions every second, and there are infinitesimally small motors, is what he called them, that walk around the cell like tiny robots. And I've actually read a few books on that subject, and it's just incredible what goes on in the cells themselves. Just fascinating. And he gives a bit of a definition at the end of the book, and he says that life evolves through natural selection, has physical entities like a cell, and is chemical, physical, and information machine. But those aren't real satisfying. So I want to thank you for watching the video, and hopefully I'll see you on another. Thanks.